As you said, we have an opportunity here today to be able to discuss some of the issues regarding the F-35, the F-16, and also the Halkbank case, and we will have an opportunity to thoroughly discuss them.
What moment did you realize then that that there was sort of a bigger story here, something connecting Giuliani, foreign billionaires, and U.S. political institutions?
So I read the article, and essentially the article is connecting Lev Parnas to Turkish billionaires who sought to lobby the U.S. government to drop a prosecution. I connected Giuliani to also Turkish lobbying at the same time. So these actions seem to be running in parallel. And Giuliani, he becomes the lawyer of a multi-billion-dollar money launderer, which we'll get a little bit further into.
How did figures like Reza Zarrab and Erdogan's intermediaries undermine U.S. investigations?
So, as I had already mentioned, Iran was under sanctions for its nuclear program, and that stopped business transactions with Western financial banks to move money for Iran one way or another for this for oil or gas sales that Iran was doing.
Yeah.
And so what Zarab did for the Iranian government is he would pay off Turkish officials. Then he would take money out of Turkish banks where the money had been frozen from oil and gas sales from Iran, and then change that money into other forms of money or gold or diamonds, and then move that either directly to Iran or through a third-party country to Iran. What happened is that Zarab was arrested in, I believe it was December of 2013. And the arrest was coinciding with a series of raids on government officials and their families across the country of Turkey. And what they were investigating was this money laundering scheme. But what they were looking at is less on the money laundering scheme and more on the bribery side of the scheme. And so you had these raids that were happening of government ministers and their families. According to Turkish press, there was going to be a second raid going, we'll say, up the ladder of Turkish politicians. And what happened is the raid never happened. And the short answer of why it didn't happen is that the prime minister, who was Erdogan at the time of Turkey, he put out a decree that fired the police investigators, the prosecutors, and the judges that were investigating the case. And we know this because Zarab would later turn state's evidence in the United States and explain it. Explain how he bribed the Turkish officials to get out of jail and get the case shut down in Turkey. So by the end of 2014, Zarab is out of prison, and everybody that had been raided, that had been detained by Turkish police, they were all freed, and all the prosecutors and the police and the judges that were involved in the case, they were all fired or transferred. Then in 2016, the case reopens in the United States. This time, it's the Southern District of New York that's investigating the pass-through of the money laundering scheme into a U.S. bank before it ends in Iran. And so this is happening in the spring of 2016. I believe Zarab was arrested traveling with his family to Florida and going to Disney World in the United States. And they arrest him as he comes in. Trump becomes president in November of 2016. And by the end of January, I believe, of 2017, Giuliani is becoming Zarab's lawyer. This is the same time that Giuliani is acting as an unofficial advisor to the president of the United States. And so Giuliani goes on to Turkey to talk to Erdogan about, how to deal with this political situation. Around that same time, Giuliani is sitting down with Trump and Secretary of State Rex Tillerson in the Oval Office and asks Tillerson, with Trump sitting there, to intervene in Zarab's case on national security grounds. And Tillerson said, this stuff is illegal. I can't do this. It would be pressuring prosecutors to drop a case for the benefit of who? For the benefit of Iran? You can't do that. Giuliani would also later push for a trade between the U.S. government and Turkey for a trade of Reza Zarrab for an illegally detained pastor, a guy by the name of Pastor Brunson. Perhaps you remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Pastor Brunson was detained in right after the coup in 2016 against Erdogan, and he was accused of being in the CIA, essentially. And Giuliani here is trying to push for a trade, Zarrab for Pastor Brunson. Turkey would continue to push for a trade later on, not for Zarrab, but to close the Halkbank prosecutions in return for Brunson. So Giuliani is either a huge fan of Turkey and its president, or he was acting as a foreign agent of the Turkish government.